Hi and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Breifne and you're listening to episode 213 here on the podcast. It is, of course, the Sports Roundup show after yet another busy weekend of championship action and a little bit of soccer thrown in for good measure. Let's start with our sponsors today, which is, of course, is the local enterprise office here in Leitrim, based in Orsankunde in Carrick-on-Shannon, and they're currently offering a number of supports to businesses in the county to get themselves back up and running after the COVID lockdown. In particular, we'd like to draw your attention to the online trading voucher scheme, which runs a special scheme of 90% funding up from the usual 50% until the end of August. And that's available, all the information on localenterprise.ie/Leitrim. And as you probably know if you listen to the podcast regularly, we are moving back into a previous life, essentially, of web design. So if you're interested in getting a website for your business, don't know where to go to start the process, come and have a chat with us here at Leitrim Daily and we'll help you get yourself up and running and availing of that 90% funding grant from the local enterprise office. You can get in touch with us through any of our social medias at Leitrim Daily, and also info@leitrimdaily.com will get us via email. Now, in terms of some big announcements this week, not really big announcements, but it's a little bit of a victory for us here in Leitrim Daily. We finally got our YouTube channel up to the threshold of 100 subscribers. Doesn't seem like an awful lot, but for us it's a little bit of a goal that we set ourselves for this month, and we smashed it this morning. So absolutely delighted to have 100 of you joining us over on YouTube. We are adding video content to our interviews. So now all the guests you'll hear on the show today, all maybe 12, 13 of them, will have a video element to their video. So we also record it with a video, and that's up on our YouTube channel, and a little snippet of it on our Twitter feed over the weekend. So as those games happen, we put those interviews up. They'll all be in the Monday's Roundup show as well, but just to remind you that you can get it over there, youtube.com/Leitrim Daily, and you'll be able to, don't forget to subscribe. That's quite important too, that you'll get them first direct to your phone or your computer or laptop or whatever it is you view your YouTube stuff on. Anyway, that is enough housekeeping for today. Let's talk about some actual sport that went down over the weekend. And of course, as usual, based on what's been going on over the last couple of days in the county, it is Gaelic games that will be taking most of our focus today. In terms of soccer, there was a couple of games. Let's run through those fixtures first, get them out of the way. In the SSE Electricity League, Sligo back to winning ways. 2 wins from 2 now in the opening round of the SSE Electricity League Premier Division as they've restarted. They've taken themselves off the bottom. Niall Morahan featured in both of those victories. 2-1 against Shelbourne on Saturday night in front of a bumper crowd of 53 people. That's the world we live in now, folks. That is a capacity crowd nowadays at major sports event in the country. Hopefully that will increase over the coming weeks, but things aren't looking fantastic on that over the coming weeks. In terms of the Women's National League, Dearbhaile Beirne, of course, we spoke to her last week on the show. She played her part in Peamount United's 5-0 victory over New Girls Treaty United in that particular kick-off to a season played on Saturday night in Greenogue as well. Manor Rangers locally had a victory in one of their last games in the league against Merville yesterday morning, 5-4. They came back from behind twice to win that game. Fantastic game. Of course, their title hopes all but gone now, but still keeping that scoreboard ticking over. The goals from Paul Logan, Oran Gethens, Brian MacDonald, 2, and a last minute or late penalty winner from Aaron Hickey after Oran Gethens had been fouled in the box. So all in all, good performance there from Manor Rangers. To come back from behind twice is impressive stuff. Well done to everybody there. Now, let's cast our eye towards Gaelic games in the county, and of course the Senior Football Championship in full swing, and the groups are really beginning to take shape as we speak, and particularly over the last weekend, with a couple of surprise results, but some fantastic performances all around. Comebacks again, and super subs, the name of the day in everything to do with the Gaelic games this weekend. We'll hear from some of the participants later on in the show, but let's run down through the fixtures in the men's and women's championships before we get bogged down in each of the individual games. In the Senior Football Championship, in the early throw-in on Saturday evening, St Mary's Kiltahard hosted Ballinamore, and they won that game 19 points to 115 with a late point from Dara Farrell, one of the architects behind O'Willan's defeat last week, with a goal in the last punch of the game. He did the same. He punched a point to win the game against Ballinamore on Saturday night. We'll hear from Dara as well as Wayne McKeown and Dom Corrigan later in the programme. Also in Group 1 in the Senior Championship, O'Willan's Championship bid ended with a defeat to Fianna St. Collins, 2-15 to 2-10. The final score in that particular fixture means Aughwillan sit on the bottom of the table. All of the other teams on 4 points, Aughwillan 0 with 1 game to play, so they can't catch any other team in that group. They are consigned, unfortunately, for Aughwillan's point of view, to the playoff final. Who they will face will come to in just a moment, because there's some interesting games coming up next week for that. In terms of Group 2 of the Connacht Gold Senior Football Championship, Melvin Gaels and Glencar Manor played a game live on leitrimgaa.ie and on their YouTube channel on Saturday night. Melvin Gaels 4-11 to 1-14. We'll hear from James Phelan later in the programme about how a great start in the first 5 or 6 minutes for Melvin Gaels set them up for the victory in that particular clash. And Leitrim Gaels nearly did it all over again. A comfortable lead with a flurry of late scores for their opponents. This time Drumreilly bringing the game back much tighter than they probably would have liked 15-20 minutes from time. 13 points to 1-8 the final score there. It does guarantee their survival and their, more importantly, their qualification for the quarterfinals. Drumreilly now face Alan Gaels on Saturday evening in Drumreilly in a crunch game for both sides. A victory for Drumreilly will put them into the quarterfinals. The loser of that game will end up in the relegation playoff against Aughwillan. In terms of the Intermediate Football Championship, again, some big moves made in the competition this week. Drumkieran 117 to 15 points against Beirne, while Aughnacheelan, they beat Ballinaglara 111 to 11 points, and Ballinaglara in a spot of bother now from one of the early season favourites for that particular competition. In Group 2, Dromahair 2-14, Anaduff 10 points, and probably the biggest statement of the weekend. Anaduff would be fancied as one of the teams to go and win this championship. Dromahair really putting their name into the mix for when the business end of the championship starts in just a couple of weeks' time. Gortletra continuing their impressive form with an 8-point victory over Carrigallen, 2-15 to 13 points there. In the Junior B Football Championship, 3 games played this weekend. Sean Heslin's 2-6, Alan Gale 16 points, a 4-point victory for the Drumshambo side, while Drumkieran went down to Mull, 1-5 to Drumkieran, 2-14 to Mull, a fairly comfortable victory in the end with 12 points to spare in that particular clash. Melvin Gaels, they continued their impressive weekend, 113 to 9 points, a victory against Kiltubrid, also in the Junior B Championship. Each of them in different sections, 3 groups of 3, a bit of a complicated permutations. It's just the first weekend. We won't bog down on today's show about how that is going to affect it. Also in the Junior C Championship, the lowest level in the county, a very entertaining game played in Leitrim Village on Sunday afternoon. Leitrim Gaels 10 points, Havas 111. Fintan McBride will be talking to us after that game later in the show. We caught up with him as he rolled back the years to show an impressive ability to stick the ball over the bar from 40 yards. Who knew he could do that? We only watched him for 20 years do it in the green and gold of Leitrim, so great to see him back in action yesterday afternoon. The final game of the weekend in men's football was also in the Junior C Football Championship. In Group 2 of that particular competition, and Dromahair, second win of the weekend for them too, a second defeat for Ballinaglara, 1-12 to Ballinaglara, 2-10, a single point victory for Dromahair, and what looks to be an entertaining grade of football in the county. It's all very complicated in terms of how teams will progress into the quarterfinals. We know the 4 teams that will progress, but we don't necessarily know what order they will be in. We'll do a full written rundown on the different permutations in Group 1. It's an absolute minefield. In the other group, it's a little bit less clear cut, although we have 3 of the 4 names in the hat so far. Melvin Gaels, Leitrim Gaels and Glencar Manor will be in that quarterfinal stage of the competition. Alan Gales and Drumreilly effectively a last 16 bout at the round to qualify for the quarterfinals, a knockout game for them on Saturday. A draw enough for Alan Gales. Drumreilly will need a victory, but the winner will go into the quarterfinals of the competition. The loser will have to fight another day against Aughwillan in that relegation playoff. Now, in terms of the Intermediate Football Championship, how the group tables look, it's quite clear-cut on one side of the draw, and that is Drumkieran will be top of the group no matter what happens on Saturday evening. Of course, there's one fixture unplayed as of yet as we're recording this in Intermediate Football Championship Group 1, and that is the refixed game between Beirne and Aughnacheelan. As it stands at the moment, Drumkieran 3 wins from 3, they have 6 points, they will be in the quarterfinals, and then it's anybody's guess at this point as to who will be with them, because the other 4 teams all have 2 points at this moment in time. Auckland and Bourne-Coola play each other on Wednesday night in Auckland. So the winner of that will put 1 foot in the championship, and then it's down to the final round of games to see who will progress with them. It could be anybody. We'll do a written summary again on that group in terms of how that's going to work, because it's very hard to get your head around the numbers if you can't physically see them in front of you. In Group 2, Gortaletra and Dromahair and Anaduff will all be in that quarter-final draw. Kilturbert and Carrigallen, they face off this weekend to see who will join them. At the moment, it's a slight advantage Kilturbert in that the scoring differences would see them through should that game finish in a draw. So Carrigallen need a victory. Kilturbert will get through with a draw in that particular game. Now, in ladies football, a full round of games played in their championship as well, and it is very much advantage Ballinamoor in the senior football championship in the ladies side of the draw. They had a fantastic victory, 4-11 to 117 over Glencar Manorhamilton. Not altogether a surprise if you've been following the ladies' game in the county, but I suppose Glencar Manor would have been fancied as one of the teams that people would struggle to slow down this year, and they were very impressive in their opening 2 rounds. But their ability to score only 1 goal in the 60 minutes on Sunday morning cost them 18 scores versus 15 in favour of the North Leitrim side, but unfortunately for them, Ballinamore found the back of the net 4 times, and that was the difference between the sides at the end. 1 goal separated the teams, 4-11 to 117, as I mentioned. In terms of the other games played in the Senior Football Championship this weekend, St. Francis, they hosted Kilturbert on Friday evening in Drumshambo. That game went the way of the visiting side, 1-7 to 115 in favour of Kilturbert. So an 8-point victory for the green and red girls there. St. Bridget's and St. Joseph's, they played out a rather one-sided game. Unfortunately, been the story of the season for a very, very young and inexperienced St. Bridget's side, missing 2 or 3 of their stronger players through injury this year, and it's really shown on the scoreboard, unfortunately for them. 1-2 they managed to muster in this particular game versus 5-17 from St. Joseph's. But Kilturbert, it's a good statement of intent. They have virtually put themselves into the quarter-final at this stage. They're 2 points ahead of St. Francis after that game at the weekend, but what it does mean is that St. Francis have to play against 2 of the stronger sides in the competition, while Kilturbert still have a fixture to play against St. Bridget's, who they would be expected to beat in that particular game. In terms of the Intermediate Championship, 2 wins this weekend in that particular competition. Anaduff beaten heavily by Dromahair, 8-20 to 6 points. A tough game for the Anaduff girls there, while Mohill had a big win against Keeldra Gaels, 4-19 to 2-9. But an impressive scoreline all the same from Keeldra Gaels, recently promoted from the junior grade. They brought in 2-9 against a strong Mohill side. Again, a little bit of local rivalry there. Letra and Clune coming into play against Mohill. They'll be quite happy to have had 2-9 on them in that particular game. They should do enough to stay up in this competition, but time will tell how that works. In the Junior Championship, 2 games due to be played. Only one of them actually ended up making it as far as the field. Unfortunately, St. Francis unable to field a second string this weekend against Drumkieran. They conceded that game, and Fianna St. Collins made the long trip to Manorhamilton to bug on to play again. Another fantastically entertaining game. A couple of late goals in the game, but unfortunately not enough for Fianna to take all 2 points back to them. In terms of the competition structure as it is, Glencar Manor taking a big step towards a decent placing in the semi-final draw for that particular competition, 110 to 2-6. A 1-point victory for the girls from the north of the county gives them a little bit of an advantage going into the closing stages of that particular competition. How that looks in the senior championship, as we've mentioned, Ballinamore, Shauna Heslins and St. Joseph's, after their draw 2 weeks ago, now currently sit on top of the table, 5 points from their 3 games. Glencar Manor beaten this weekend. They now dropped to 3rd place in the table, 4 points from their 3 games, while Kilturbert, St. Francis, 2 points each from their 3 games. St. Bridget's scoreless on the league table, at least with 3 games played. Top place in this group would mean, if games go as expected, that the winners of the group, which looks likely to be Ballinamore, Shauna Heslins, will play Kilturbert in the semi-finals, St. Joseph's playing Glencar Manor. So one of last year's finalists most likely to miss out on an opportunity to play in the county final. Will it play out like that? It's anybody's guess, but well worth checking out to see how it plays out over the coming weeks. Now, in the Intermediate Championship, Mohill 1 foot in a semi-final and 1 foot on the top of the table. They have 6 points from their opening 3 games. Also unbeaten, Dromahair, 4 points after another big win this weekend. 2 games played, 4 points on the board, while St Mary's Kiltard won 1, lost 1 for 2 points from their opening 2 games. Anaduff and Kielder Gaels still without a point on the league table, 2 points and 3 points played respectively there. Again, the bottom side will miss out on a semi-final spot, while the top first place fourth, second place third. Who exactly will fill those tables will be a bit clearer maybe after the next round of games. 4 games in total to be played there. In terms of the junior championship, again, same structure. 4 teams from the 5 go through. St Francis B look to be the weakest side in the group purely because of the numbers, and it is a second team. But Drumkieran, Fianna and Glencar Manor, the teams who look to be the most impressive in that competition so far. Glencar Manor's big win over Fianna at the weekend really has put themselves in a good shout of maybe even top in that group. They will have to take on Drumkieran. They've already played. They drew a couple of weeks ago, but it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But any of those 3 sides realistically in with a shout of winning that championship. And St Joseph's, as much as it's probably against the odds a little bit being a second team in that particular competition, will be eager to make sure that they aren't going to just hand over a championship title to one of their rivals either. So let's actually hear from some of the people involved in the Senior Football Championship this particular week. We'll start with the game in Carrick-on-Shannon on Saturday evening between St Mary's and Sean O'Heslin's. A late Dara Farrell score in the dying stages of the game was enough just to give Carrick the win. We'll hear from him, but first let's hear from Wayne McKeown, captain of Ballinamore, and his manager Dom Corrigan. Dom Corrigan, your thoughts after that very, very tight game tonight?
Oh, it was a great game from start to finish, very exciting, and a grandstand finish, and unluckily for us we came out the wrong end of it this time, but fair play to Carrick. They fought hard all through, and over the course of the 65, 70 or was it 75 minutes was played in total there tonight. I think there was 8 minutes of injury time. Carrick earned the win.
In terms of what you're expecting coming into this game, is that kind of what you're expecting from Carrick? Because 2 weeks ago I don't think anyone in the county would have expected that from them.
Yeah, well, they got a bad defeat 2 weeks ago, but I've seen before where a bad defeat like that can galvanise a team, and obviously they've reacted very well to it. I saw them against Ahawillan last Monday, so that was a big result for them, and that was an even bigger one there tonight for them. So, fair play to them. They responded well, and that's a sign of a good team. So they're in a good place now. They should make the quarter-final. So we have Fianna to play next week, and if we win that, we top the group. So that's our focus now.
It almost seemed like a carbon copy of last week's game. The opposition come up, they score a late goal in injury time, and then 2 scores to snatch it back for Carrick. In terms of what you do now, because obviously it doesn't affect your progression to this quarterfinals really in terms of, but it may affect who you play. Is that a concern at this stage?
Not really. Every game that we play, we look at the things we did well and build on them, and then more significantly, I suppose, we look at the things that we didn't do so well, and there were a few things there this evening, aspects of our game that we'd be disappointed with. So we'll look at that and we'll try to put it right against Fianna, because once you've got a league format to the championship, it's about building a team, sorting out maybe the men for the positions, etc. So we're happy with the way that we're progressing. We know we have a lot of work still to do, and I suppose that game there tonight reinforces that we have loads of work to do, because last year, as I was saying to the lads, we coasted through the qualifying group, and at the end of the day that does you no good. I think it's important to get good tough games in the build up to the knockout stages of the championship, and I thought that game there had the feel of a knockout game, and that's brilliant preparation going forward into 3-4 weeks time. So whilst disappointed with the result, I was delighted to get a top quality performance, real hard honest contest where both teams went at it, and I think in the long term it might do us no harm.
Some very fine individual performances as well as part of the team there. Wayne McKeown looked like he was 10 years younger than he actually is. He just seemed to be running the show for large periods of the game from centre field.
Yeah, Wayne is an outstanding footballer, and he's a great leader, and he's one of the key men on our team, and he stood up there tonight. And there were a number of other men who stood up as well. I thought Tom Pryor's goal was exceptional, and then obviously we're disappointed that we didn't hold on and push on from that, but that's a lesson for us. The game is never over until the referee decides to blow that final whistle, and no one has control over that final whistle bar the referee, and we found that out to our cost the other night, which we didn't know how long he was adding on, and the time just kept going on. So listen, it's a hard lesson for us, but I think a good lesson, and I'd like to think we'll be the better for it.
How much of an impact did the black cards on each side go for? Your one a little bit shorter than Carrick one. They got a full 10 minutes in terms of David O'Connell saw the bench for 10 minutes during the second half late on. You probably didn't capitalise enough on that, whereas Carrick seemed to take advantage of Dean McGovern's petulance, probably the right word.
Yeah, Dean will regret that one, but you learn from these things, and Dean will be a smart enough player to learn. He had a great game overall there tonight, and fair play to Carrick. They made that extra man count in that extra few minutes, and I suppose they had that extra bit of hunger about them too, because if they had to lose tonight they were probably gone from the championship, but now they're very much alive in it, and I'd expect to be seeing them in the latter stages of it.
Would they worry in coming up against them maybe at a semi-final or final stage down the line?
Oh well, Carrick are a fine side, and I know Dennis Connaughton from the past. He did a fantastic job with Longford when he was in charge of the Longford senior team, and I know he's going to add serious value to Carrick. So with Dennis in charge and a quality team there, they're going to be thereabouts. There's no doubt about that.
Hard luck today. I think we'll be seeing you plenty of you for the weeks to come, though.
I hope so.
Wayne McKeown, your thoughts after that?
Very disappointed, to be quite honest with you. We had the game there. We were all over them in the last quarter, and they just kept hitting us on the break, and we made a couple of silly mistakes, a couple of wides, and Carrick punished us, and that's the simple fact, But we'll regroup on Tuesday evening, and we'll learn from these things, and we'll look what went wrong and look what we done right and what went right for us, and we'll get back out again for next Saturday evening.
You gave them a big lead in the first half. I think the score was 8-2 at one point, but you managed to claw that back in, just point by point, keeping that scoreboard ticking over. And when you got that goal late on, it looked like you might have just done enough, but they came back the same way as they did against Ahawillan last week. Were you expecting them to kind of come back once you scored that goal?
Oh, absolutely. I was at the game last week against Ahawillan and Carrick, and we knew they were fit. We seen them fit. They were all over Ahawillan for the 65-70 minutes, so we were expecting them to have the legs. They've great young team, they're great runners, new manager after coming in, so of course we expected them to come back, but when the game was in the mental part, we just didn't react like we should have, and as I said, when we get back on Tuesday evening again, we'll just have to look at that,
On a personal level, you're playing pretty well there in the middle of the field. You were picking off passes from centre field to anyone you wanted nearly at that stage. You were rolling back the years. How did it feel on a personal note playing today? You seem to be in good form.
Oh yeah, cruising along nicely. I suppose maybe I got a week's break there. I had an injury against Ahawillan, so maybe that was got to do with it as well, but look at it. We all lose as a team, we win as a team, so it doesn't make any difference who played well, who didn't play well there. We all have to take it on the chin there that we just didn't get over the line when, as we said before the game, that we wanted to top the group. So, everyone should be very disappointed. Carrick bet us last year in the league. I know we bet them in the championship, but they're after pipping us again there today, so we have to be disappointed, But as I said, we'll get back to the grindstone on Tuesday evening and take a look at what happened,
In terms of the actual advancement to the quarter-final stage, this probably won't knock you out of the championship. You'll still make that quarter-final spot, bar an absolute miracle set of results on the last day of the season. In terms of yourselves, how much will it feel like this kind of sit in the memory, or will it be gone today once you leave the pitch here?
No, as I said, once we get back to training on Tuesday evening, we'll look at what happened, and the boys will have the stats and all there for us, and we'll just what went wrong. We'll just have to fix them during the week and have to get a quick turnaround, because we have Fianna next Saturday evening, and Fianna are a very good outfit, as we've seen. They could have took Mohill, probably should have took Mohill from what I'm hearing, and bet Carrick as well. So just shows there's nothing between any team really in this division. So as I said, we just have to get back to the grindstone and go at it again on Tuesday evening and go for a Fianna. They're there, see can we take 2 points off them and top the group,
Listen, hard luck today.
Thank you very much.
Dara Farrell, super sub for St Mary's so far in the last two games. It's a bit of a turnaround from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, huge. Look, our backs were fairly against the wall last week, 2 losses on the trot, and we're facing into relegation going into the Ahawillan game without a result. So the lads show serious backbone over the past 2 weeks to come back, beat Ahawillan, Ballinamore, 2 contenders, 2 big teams, and hopefully that's us secured for the quarterfinals now.
I think no matter what happens now at this stage, you've 1 foot and probably a full toe in the other side in that draw in the quarterfinal in a couple of weeks' time. From your own point of view, not making the starting team just yet, but you've made a huge impact off the bench in both of those games.
Yeah, look, we've great squad depth there. There's serious competition for places. You know, even just you can see behind us there, we have a full team training there. 16, 17 lads are on the bench. We used 4 subs today on top of the 15, so there's serious depth there, and it's a squad effort, and everyone buys into that. Everyone knows that.
What's different in the squad now that wasn't maybe there 2 weeks ago?
I suppose we just weren't performing. We weren't doing our roles correctly. We weren't playing the system correctly. I suppose the layoff didn't do us well. We had only maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks back. You know, a lot of injuries straight into championship, but we've managed to turn it around and get back on track. So yeah.
In terms of the expectations, decent crowd here today, some big expectations coming forward. Going forward into the championship, you've no more group games, that's your 4th game, 4 games done. Everything is in other people's hands now in terms of where you finish based on results this evening and next week. What's the hope? Obviously maybe 3rd, 4th place in that group and a handier draw in theory at least?
Yeah, I think at this stage it'll either be 3rd or 4th how we play out, and sure, look, it's a quarter final. There's no handy draw, I don't think, in a quarter final. Some very good teams on the other side, so we'll just be concentrating ourselves on our preparation over the next 3 weeks, and whoever it is, it is.
I think 2 weeks ago nobody in the right mind would have asked you the next question, but in terms of realistic hopes of winning the championship, is this group capable of that? Because it's a very different side. I don't want to keep harping on it, but it's a much more improved side over the last 2 weekends than maybe the first 2 weekends of the championship. Is the championship in this group's grasp?
Yeah, look, we're just taking it game by game. You know, 2 weeks ago it was Willen, we didn't win. We're out. We didn't win today. We could have potentially, it was out of our hands. So look, we're just concentrating on a quarter final, take it game by game, and anything's possible. We have the team, we have the management behind this team to go all the way, but we'll just be concentrating, taking step by step.
Can you keep getting those last minute scores to put that score in the favour of St Mary's over the next couple of weeks?
Look, I don't think it's good for anyone's heart, but if we can keep playing like we're playing, we shouldn't have a problem.
Well done today.
Cheers, thanks Breifne.
Now live on Saturday evening on leitrimgaa.ie and across their YouTube channel, you would have had the opportunity to watch Melvin Gaels take an early lead and never really relinquish it against a Glencar Manorhamilton side just struggling to compete with them at the start of the particular game. I made the journey to Kinlaw on Sunday evening for a chat with the Melvin Gaels manager, James Phelan. James Phelan, back to the scene of the crime last night. You must be delighted to get that win over local rivals. Always nice to get one up on that Glencar Manor.
Absolutely delighted on several different levels. We got a performance. We put ourselves in contention to be fairly high up in that group, and as I say, we beat our local neighbours and rivals Manor, and the fact that they are the present county champions. They were the marker that we wanted to set ourselves against. And so once you want to pit yourself against the best, so we came across that. Now that doesn't mean anything going forward, but at least we're at the races.
In terms of the game yesterday, a bright start from yourselves.
We got a great start. We got the dream start. I think we hit 2-2 in about 5 minutes, and that really set us up for the performance ahead. It put that daylight between us that it was just always going to be difficult. Given the type of games we have with Glencar Manor, they were going to find it hard to bridge an 8-point lead.
In terms of the structure of the championship this year, it must be nice to have had games where you haven't had to travel too far for games, rather than the usual trek to maybe Drumshanbo, Carrick or Ballinamore.
Absolutely, yeah. We were in Leitrim village and we were in Dearbhaile, but while I think it's a huge distance to come from Dearbhaile down here, we're used to these journeys to the south of the county all the time. But no, it has actually worked out well. It's been great to host championship games at home. It brings a different atmosphere to the whole thing. And like last night, it was a special occasion here with having our new pitch and having our neighbours here. There was a good crowd and there was a good atmosphere, and it was a lovely evening as well.
What did the streaming element bring to it, or are you even aware of that once you're kind of watching the game develop in front of you?
No, generally not aware of it as it's going on, but it does create a buzz, all right. I suppose going out beforehand, lads would have known that this was being shown around, and there would have been family members and so on watching this in different parts of the world. And we were getting messages afterwards from different parts of the world saying well done and all the rest. So I suppose from that point of view, it does bring a different type of an element to it.
In terms of the overall championship again, based on the first maybe round or two of games, there were certain trends that have pretty much been knocked on their head over the last 2 weeks. Yourselves had a rough opening day, maybe defeat to Leitrim Gaels. you've turned that around completely. You sit on top of the table, albeit with one game left to go in the group. How have you seen the kind of the development of your squad over the last 4 weeks?
Yeah, well, with the year that was in it, it was always liable that something like that would happen. That you go in cold to the first game, with the whole COVID-19 and the lockdown, it didn't give you a chance to prepare that well insofar you couldn't get challenge matches and so on. So, like everybody else, we went in with what we thought was our best 15 starting. It didn't work out for us on that day, and we had to evolve and change fairly quickly. But luckily, the changes we made have worked for us, and the team have settled back in again, and we got the last 3 results on the bounce. So it's been fairly positive.
The same is probably true in the other half of the championship, in the other group, and it really is almost a lottery now as to who's going to finish top of a group and who's going to finish third or fourth in a group. So it's very hard to predict who you're going to have in the quarterfinals. Has any of that come into your consideration at all as you're looking at the final permutations in the fifth round of games?
Up until now, I hadn't looked at it. We were just, really interested, I suppose, in what we were doing on this side of the group ourselves. As it is, I think there's, all the teams are on 4 points on the other side. So it's down to next weekend, anything can happen. And being quite honest, not really, there's not a kick in the ball of a ball between any of those teams over there. Carrick, had a serious setback early on and, have come through in flying colours now. So it really doesn't matter who you meet on the other side of that group now.
Manorhamilton play Leitrim Gaels next week, probably the only fixture that affects you in a material way. If Manor win it, you finish top on the head-to-head results. If Leitrim Gaels draw or win, they'll be top of the group. Mm-hmm. In terms of that, if you finish top of that group, it is Carrick you'll play in that quarter-final, because they're almost guaranteed to be fourth based on the score difference. It would take a kind of an interesting combination of results on the last day for them to finish anywhere but fourth in that group. Have you had a chance to look at them? Will you go look at them next week? I know you're idle.
Yeah,
they're idle too. They're finished their campaign too, so you kind of don't really get that opportunity.
Yeah, well, look, some of those games are online, so we could go and look at them if we were really interested. But no, I'm just interested in what we're doing ourselves.
Talk to us about the actual team this year and some of the changes you have made since that opening day. Like, who has come into the team that maybe has impressed you that you weren't maybe necessarily expecting massive things from this year?
Yeah, well, Donal Clancy came in last night. That was his first start this year, and he scored 1-2. So that was a huge bonus for him. Well, the team hasn't changed that much. Maybe a few positional switches. Rhys Brennan finds himself back along the half-back line now, and he's enjoying life there. Killian McGlone is playing a wee bit closer to goal. He scored 2 goals last night. So a few of those positional changes have worked for us, and the fellas are seeming to enjoy where they are at the minute.
There's a few teams still lurking there in the middle of those two groups, and it's probably been spread now from maybe 3 or 4 teams that people were talking about at the start of the championship to probably 6 or 7 who could potentially, yourselves included, who could mount a serious title challenge. Where do you see this ending up? Where do you see, I know I'm going to put you on the spot, but where do you see this finishing up over the next couple of weeks? Who do you think is going to be there or thereabouts? Maybe the best way to phrase it is, who do you see as the biggest obstacle to a county championship run?
We're the biggest obstacle to ourselves, to be quite honest. That's just so difficult to answer. Obviously, Manor are still going to be there. They're the present county champions. There'll be a kick in Manor. Ballamore are going to be looking to go one step further than last year. Mohill are always thereabouts. Carrick have suddenly put their hands up. Fianna are going to be there. It's impossible to say at this stage. There are a lot of quality teams coming through, and you know what? It's great for Leitrim football to see this. Whereas previously you'd have been fit to point out, okay, there's 2 teams, possibly we'll see maybe 3 that are going to, fight for this championship. There's a good 6 teams at the minute that could take points or take a game of each other at this stage.
What's next for you? You've an idle week this week, then I think it's a week off before the quarterfinals kick in, so you've got a nice little break ahead of that. What will you do with the team over the next 2 or 3 weeks? Yeah,
look, we'll get back to the drawing board, take a look at ourselves, as you say, possibly take a look at potential opposition, and just, we're hoping to kind of follow the upward, trend that we're on at the minute, maybe work on our fitness a wee bit, work on our game. There's something things we can work on,
You're not going to tell us today, though.
I don't know myself at the minute.
Well, listen, congratulations on... It's always nice to win a local derby. There's been plenty of them this year in the championship, but this one always has a bit of bite to it between Melvin Gaels and Manor, and I know you'll take a bit of delight in this. I'm sure they won't take it lying down, and they may cross swords with them again later in the year.
Look, there's always that possibility, and listen, we'd love to see Manor back in the county final again with us. So, it might happen.
Here's hoping.
Well, it'll be a good day out.
Also on Saturday evening in Leitrim Village, Dearbhaile were the visitors to Leitrim Gaels, and I spoke after the game to two of the injured players who missed out on both sides' selections for the night. David Brune of Leitrim Gaels talked to me, while Niall Maguire of Dearbhaile spoke to me after his side's last-minute comeback that just fell short. David Brune, you missed tonight's game through injury, but you must be relieved the way the game played out towards the end of the second half.
Yeah, I thought we started the game off slow enough. Took us a while to grow into it, but the especially the third quarter, I thought we were very good. I don't think Dearbhaile scored in that quarter, but then again we took the foot off the pedal and let Dearbhaile back into it. And they've a few very good players. They're always gonna put us under pressure, but it's a bit frustrating the way we let them back into it. We're in such a good position. I think we're 8 points up, and ended at 2 points in it. So yeah, there was nothing really in it, but relieved, yeah, as you said.
Is it a worry that the game last week against Alan Gaels, an 8-point victory or 8-point lead to a draw today, a 5 or 6 point lead, back to scary situation at the very end?
Yeah, it's strange because we like to think our fitness is fairly good, but it is frustrating that we're letting teams back into, I suppose, circumstance last weekend with the early red card didn't help us, but we can't really blame Anthony today. It was perfect conditions. We had 50 men on the field apart from the last 2 minutes of the black card, but yeah, it's just relieved to get the win, really. Breifne, we came in here with a few injuries, and 2 points is all we wanted, and we've come out with that.
I suppose midway through that second half as well, Brendan Flynn pulled off 1 or 2 saves that, had they gone in at that stage, it might have made it even tighter towards the end of the game.
Yeah, look at Benny. He's capable of that. It has to be a fairly good shot for it to go by Benny. But yeah, I suppose we got a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck, and I think we had 1 or 2 goal chances here that didn't go in. So I suppose both teams can complain about missed goal chances.
In terms of your own situation, what has you out of the game today?
Just a calves strain, I think it is. I wouldn't have been able to play today. So just hoping to get back for next week.
Obviously Glencar Manor next week, champions. They've been on a fine run of form, beaten tonight though. So it's kind of opened up the group. Ballinamore losing on the other side of the draw. It really is kind of going to come down to the wire to see who's going to play who in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely going to come down to the wire. But I think most teams just want to get into the quarterfinal. Who they play in the quarterfinal will be dealt with later on. But our main aim anyway was just getting into quarterfinal. We're there now, and Manor obviously is going to be a tough test. I think they have a few players back, like James Rooney and them. But yeah, we'll give it our all, and we'll probably still be down a few lads, but it's a chance for other lads to come through.
In terms of those players that we're missing, obviously Colin Morton, red card for last week. You mentioned he'll miss next week's game through a second suspension. A couple of other injury niggles. Ewan and Tracy went off last week in the game too. What's the outlook for the depth of the squad here with Leitrim Village?
We've lots of young lads coming through, and I don't know how many we had on the sideline today, but depth of squad isn't an issue. I suppose the books that are missing would be maybe classified as kind of senior lads, which whatever team you're on, you're going to miss senior lads, but it's a great chance for young lads to come through and grab a starting spot, and I think a few of them did today, the likes of Ryan Goldrick and Aaron McLaughlin. I think Aaron McLaughlin's first game back since he came back from the US, but yeah, a depth squad isn't really a problem for us. I'd like to think so.
How much are you enjoying playing senior football? Is it a noticeable step up from the intermediate grade?
It's a massive step up. It's probably helped us that we're playing Division 1 league the last 2 to 3 years, but there's no replacement for senior football. Just the intensity, it's serious, and just given the fact that we didn't think we were going to be playing football at all this year, it's just an added bonus.
Listen, well done today, despite the little bit of a scare Dearbhaile gave you towards the end.
Yeah, cheers, Breifne, thank you.
Nigel Maguire, your thoughts after that game?
Yeah, hard luck. It was a great evening for a game of football, I suppose. We came out hungry, just didn't get the run of play a couple of times. We had a couple of good goal chances. One of them went in. We could have been a couple of points up at some stage through the game. Then we're defending league and it's a different kind of game. But yeah, we were chasing it the whole time. Got a goal at the end, another chance at the end. Some missed chance, but Leitrim Gaels were good now in fairness. They deserved the win on the day. Can't deny them that.
You might have left yourself just too big a gap to close, even though it was a fairly spirited comeback in the second half.
It was, yeah. I suppose the club or the lads, fair play to them, they never give up. There was always a chance. Like 5 or 6 points, nothing in the game of football, and you see a goal going in like that. It just doesn't take long to go over another couple of points to follow. But unfortunately, it didn't happen today for us. And yeah, big game next weekend now against Alan Gaels. We'll be targeting that one. If we don't get through there, I think what I'm hearing, we have the Willies in a relegation battle, so we don't want to be going down to that. So yeah, it'll be all up next weekend. Winner takes all.
What's the thoughts going into that game next week? Obviously, any injuries? I know you missed tonight's game.
Yeah, we have a few lads carrying a few injuries, so yeah, I don't think there'll be much done this week. Running wise, like our fitness levels aren't going to change much between now and next week. It's about minding our players now this week and making sure everyone's as close to 100% next week as they can be, because we're going to need everyone, and yeah, big effort from everyone needed. Yeah.
You pulled off one fantastic victory last year against Melvin Gaels to put yourselves in that quarter-final spot. Is that in your capability this season to kind of pull one over on Alan Gaels next weekend?
Oh, it is, of course. Yeah. We were targeting this game, I suppose, from the start. I suppose Alan Gaels would have been targeting us as well. Like it's a toss of a kind next weekend. I suppose it'll all come down to who's hungrier. The two of us are probably, not much in it, I suppose, either side. Yeah, it'll come down to who's hungrier next week, and hopefully it's us.
Hard luck today, but fantastic second half performance.
Yeah, fair play to the boys, yeah.
In the Ladies Senior Football Championship, I caught up with Glencar Manor's Dearbhaile Rooney after their defeat to Ballinamore Shauna Heslins on Sunday. Dearbhaile Rooney, tough day this morning.
It was a tough game, alright. They had a tight defence. Just figuring out the blank defence. We were practicing that in training as well, trying to get the round, but we knew we were up for a tough game. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way in the end. Still very disappointed about it now, yeah.
In terms of the overall look at the championship, obviously there's been a very definite top 3 sides in the championship. B, of course, being one of those 3 sides. Today's game, how does it affect the confidence within the group?
Initially, we're very disappointed after the game, but there's a positive out of every situation. I think that this is actually a good thing for us, because we have so much potential on the team. Like, the team has so much ability, and every year we're in the same situation. We still haven't won a county final, and I think that now that we have this defeat and that disappointment in a game that doesn't really matter that much, thankfully, maybe it will drive us for the semi-finals and the finals. We'll be able to reflect on this game, and that will push us on.
Still a big crunch game, of course, to come between yourselves and St. Joseph's again. Not massively meaningful in the grand scheme of things in terms of where the championship will end up, but how do you approach a game like that? Are you focused in on it, or are you looking towards the semi-finals at this stage already?
We take every game as it comes, focus on every game, and just practice, rehearse and training, and try and go by our own game plan, really, and not think too much about them and their players, and build on our own team and build on our own games that we've had already.
A good crop of young girls coming through the club here, obviously evidenced by your win today in the junior championship. Those girls, knowing that they're there to come and take places, while it mightn't affect you necessarily yourself, but it must put a really good factor in terms of the team, knowing that the girls at 16, 17, 18 in the squad can come in and do a job.
It's brilliant. It's unbelievable to see it as well. Like, underage, there's savage potential, and that drives us on at training. Like, everyone is fighting for their positions. No one knows who's going to get starting. Like in the senior game today, there's the full junior panel, like you've seen, unbelievable panel. Every single one of them players could be starting on the junior in the senior team as well. Like, you don't know if you got your place or not. Like,
in terms of your own sport at the moment, any boxing?
There's just boxing training at the moment, but no competitions are in sight yet.
Will you be back? You'll be back in the ring yourself, will you?
Hopefully, please God, yeah.
Well, listen, hard luck this morning and I suppose this afternoon in terms of the game, but good to see Glencar Manor competitive on both fronts today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot to take from it.
On Friday night, after a solid victory for Kiltubbard against their local rival St. Francis, I spoke to one of their players, Emma Guckian, as well as St. Francis's Caoimhe McGarry. Caoimhe McGarry, tough day at the office.
Of course, well, every day out with our local derby with Kiltubert is a tough day, and we're really giving it our all here in the senior championship to contest. But I know you couldn't ask for a better group of girls to start off the games with, and we really did give it our all. Just unlucky to not get the result there in the end.
I suppose this kind of mirrored last year's clash with the two teams. Started really bright, you just couldn't put those scores away. What was it that maybe just didn't quite go right for you today?
Well, I suppose nobody expected us to be back here now after lockdown, but from our performance out there, it really shows that we are able to contest in the senior championship, and we're right up there with the best of the teams, and just unfortunate to not get that last bit over the line, but we'll work on it and we'll keep pushing on every year. So we're fighting to stay up in senior championship, and we're here to stay.
There's 2 games left, I suppose, ahead of maybe, I don't want to say inevitably, maybe that relegation final, but tonight would have been seen as a crunch game for you. What is the outlook for the team going forward?
Well, we're not going to put ourselves down. We're going to look forward to the next game and still go in with the winning attitude and give it everything we've got. And you should look, there's still 2 games, as you said. We're not done yet, so we're going to just go out there, play the best we can. We can't do anything else.
What lessons do you take from today?
Our communication has really improved on, and we just need to keep building on it. Of course there's little tweaks that can be altered, but sure, that's with everything, and we just have to keep going out there and training hard and doing what we do. So
Listen, hard luck. It can't be easy to have a chat with us after a defeat like that, so hard luck today, but best of luck for the rest of the championship.
thank you very much, Breifne.
Emma Guckian, you must be happy with that.
Yeah, it was a well fought win. We knew it's always a tough battle between St Francis and ourselves. We were quite disappointed with the 2 previous games, so today we just kind of said to ourselves, we have to show what we're really made of. We didn't do ourselves justice in the last 2 games, and I think we did that. We kind of let them have the ball a bit too much there in the second half, but we held on there and we got the win anyway, so we're happy enough.
A nice margin of victory in the end, really kind of sets a stall out for that semi-final spot that you're chasing. Is that a realistic target for you now?
Yeah, definitely, that's what we're aiming towards. So we just take it 1 game at a time. Really, we'll be looking to Ballamore in Sunday week, and that's what we'll be working towards. We'll have a little break this weekend, the game being on Friday, and we'll just review the game the coming week, and that's what we're looking towards, semi-final spot. Yeah.
What are you most happy with today? Is it the scoreline or kind of the application?
Just the motivation between the team, having the 2 defeats coming into this game. We went 3 points down there, and wasn't looking good, but we kept the heads and we fought in, went 3 points up at half time, and we were like, we can't lose this lead, and thankfully we kept it, and 8-point victory in the end, so we're very happy with that. Yeah.
I suppose Kiltubert are well used to contesting semi-finals and finals in Leitrim at senior level. This year it's been a bit of a struggle for you, 2 defeats as you mentioned. Can you bridge that gap to maybe those 3 teams that seem to be have created their own little group at the top of the table?
Yeah, I think there's been a big step up in the women's football in the coming years with a lot of youth coming up. Ourselves, we'll just keep fighting on under the radar. We won't write ourselves off, we'll let people write us off, but we're always training in the background, and we'll keep fighting for them top 3 spots. So yeah, we'll be contenders thereabouts, and we'll keep training and keep the heads down. Yeah.
Well done today.
Thank you.
At the St Francis Kiltubert fixture on Friday night, I caught up with the Leitrim ladies manager, Hugh Donnelly, to hear more about how his team has been affected by the COVID lockdown and what the plans are for the restart of inter-county action later in the season. Hugh Donnelly, Leitrim ladies manager, we're here at a senior championship game. You're scouting players. How has your last few months been? It's a bit strange.
Yeah, it's a bit surreal, to be honest. But look, it is what it is, and we've got to work around it. From my point of view, what we've done is we've kind of frozen all training and let them go back to their clubs and let them enjoy their club football and club training, and we'll reconvene in mid-September, and we'll take it from there. Just
you're here at a club game between St Francis and Kiltubert. I suppose this really is all you can do, is kind of look at players and keep seeing if there's anyone that you can add to the squad. It was big enough to start with.
Yeah, well look, listen, there's the possibility of, you've always the possibility of a few players moving on or for various different reasons, but I suppose it's always good to see what's out there, and this is my first real opportunity to get around the clubs and see who's out there and see is there anything else that I can add to, and look for these key players who will add something to the panel. So it's it's enjoyable. It's good to come down and just relax and enjoy the games and see what's there.
Have you seen anyone that you maybe mightn't have been aware of before the lockdown happened?
Oh yeah, listen, I've been very impressed with a lot of the players that I've seen. I suppose the big thing for me and key for me is consistency. Can they do it on a week-to-week basis? So that's kind of what I'm gearing at. I'm trying to look at different games and myself and some of the background team around different games, and we're trying to maybe draw up a possible number of players. So it's just, let's see, can they be consistent on a weekly basis? And there's some cracking games in that senior championship and intermediate games and stuff. So it's just about, can they do it week in, week out?
In terms of the senior championship, the intermediate championship, I say, when it does kick back into gear, the draw took place a couple of weeks ago. There wasn't really much focus on it at the time because I think people probably didn't quite still believe it was going to happen. We're inching closer to that. The club championship's up and running, football's back. What's your idea of the draw now? Are you happy with the draw?
Look, listen, it's a tough draw. It's probably the toughest group of all of them, to be perfectly honest. But it's an excellent opportunity for us to go out against a team who has been beaten in the last two intermediate All-Irelands and down a team that's pushing really hard in Division 3. So it's a great opportunity for us to measure ourselves, because at the end of the day, our objective is to try and get out of Division 4 and progress and play better teams and play at a higher standard of football. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for us to go out and express ourselves and you never know.
The league campaign had been very, very impressive at the very start of the season. What's happening with the league now? Will that be played?
No, that the party is shelved, and it'll be just as you were again next year, which I thought was a little bit premature from the county board to do, because you had my own thinking, and I think a lot of the girls would have been that you finish one competition before you start another. There's a lot of teams who, I suppose, possibly got out of jail, teams that might have been facing relegation, but the likes of ourselves and Louth and Kildare and teams like that who were maybe pushing for promotion. So it's girls have worked really hard this last 6 months and bought into something, and that just carpet has been took from underneath them, and it's a small bit frustrating on that front. But look, again, it is what it is. The health of the people and family members and friends and stuff is really important. So look, you gotta take it.
How much contact has there been between yourself and the players while you haven't been able to gather them together for group training?
Look, just the same as every other team, possibly Zoom meetings and online and stuff like that. But as I said, I've been trying to let them switch off now this last number of months and let them go enjoy their club training, their club football, and we'll reconvene come September and we'll take it from there. Just.
You've managed to see probably most of the teams in the senior grade at this stage. Are you happy with the standard of football in the clubs here in the county?
Oh, most definitely. Look, in any given day, any team could have a bad day at the office and whatnot. And so far, I suppose week one was possibly two mismatches, the two games that I went to. But I'd say to that, I suppose there was a rustiness coming in that first week of games as well. A lot of teams and a lot of players hadn't been out and getting game time. So as the championship is progressing, as I say, it's getting a bit more exciting and it's coming to a conclusion. So it's exciting stuff. Like.
Well, listen, I'll let you get back to watch the players.
No bother. Thank you very much.
Now it's all about the junior football on a Sunday afternoon in the county for the last few weeks, and to be honest, it's where some of the most entertaining games have been taking place. And I found myself in Leitrim Village on Sunday afternoon at a game between Leitrim Gaels' second side and Aughavasa's second side, and it was a fantastic game with a couple of young lads who are full of energy and looking to make their mark on the sport in the county, but a couple of slightly older, more experienced heads too. Now, the manager of the Aughavasa side, who ended up winning the game by a 4-point margin, courtesy largely down to an injury time goal that kind of looped in to put a gloss on the scoreline for the Aughavasa side. But Fintan McBride was rolling back the year, scoring points from 30-40 yards as if it was easy. And I caught up with him after the game for a little bit of a chat on the whole situation within their club and why Junior C football is so important to a rural club like Aughavasa. Fintan McBride, super sub, not a term you'd expect to hear been used about you in Junior C level, but nice impression there when you came on late in the game.
Look, at Breifne, I suppose it's always nice to come on, and the fact that we won the game was an advantage as well. So look, it was nice to roll back the years, I suppose, and more importantly, nice to win the game for the lads that put in such a great effort throughout the game. So we're delighted with the performance.
in terms of the actual game. 4 points in the end, but an injury time last minute goal kind of put a bit of a gloss on what was a fairly competitive game the whole way through, tit for tat.
It actually was. It was a very competitive for Junior C. It was nip or tuck the whole way through. As you say, the goal at the end definitely put a gloss on it, but you know, it could have went either way. Leitrim Gaels obviously kicked a lot of wides as well. We took some of our shot selection was poor as well throughout the game. So on the balance of it, I suppose, you know, we probably just about deserved to win the game.
It really did live up to all the Junior C stereotypes, essentially, in terms of the quality of football at times. But there was some good individual performances, some good hits in that game too.
There was, actually, yeah. Very, it was very competitive throughout. We had, I suppose, you look at Niall McCabe was very good for us. He was on the 40 there. We moved him inside as well, so he was a thorn in Leitrim Gaels' side throughout. So he's just after coming out at a minor level. So he's a big addition for us going forward, even at Junior A level. So yeah, we're delighted with some of our team's performance. You know, the lads battled throughout the game, and you know, it's just great to get the win for us.
In terms of, I suppose, the overall club picture, Junior C wouldn't register in most people's list of things to watch during the week, but how important is it for a club like Aughvas to have this pool of players getting exposure to adult football?
Well, we just actually said that before the game, because we had 11 lads there that you know, if we hadn't a second team, you know, there's a lot of people says that we shouldn't have a second team or whatever it may be, but we think it's very important going forward. As I said, we had 11 lads there that can play on our second team, and if we hadn't a Junior C, they'd be getting no competitive football really at all. So I think for clubs it's imperative that they have a second and third team to keep everybody playing football.
How have the COVID restrictions affected the club, or has it helped you with lads been around, or does it make having a second team more feasible for a small club like Aughvas?
It really hasn't affected us, Breifne, to be honest. You know, we still have our lads away during the week. We have lads in Dublin, we have a couple of lads in, two or three lads in Cork. They're all over the country. So, you know, during the week we'd probably have our maybe 15, 16, and then at weekends we have our 25, 26 lads out. So really COVID hasn't, you know, helped us in any way as such. But, you know, at weekends we have our full panel of players to pick from.
You have the dual role looking after both teams. In terms of the competition going forward, you haven't yet kicked the ball in anger in the Junior Championship, the way the fixtures and concession has worked out. What's the hope for the club going forward? Is that Junior Championship there for you?
Well, it's our aim. Obviously, at the start of the year, Junior A was our goal, and that hasn't changed. You know, we're looking forward to actually this day week to get our first outing against Anna Duff. I suppose we were unfortunate last week. We were all ready for Ahawillan, but the game was then conceded. But I said that to, you know, myself and Mick said that to the lads, you know, at Junior A level, that can happen and will happen, and it's no fault to anybody. But yeah, going forward, like our goal is to go as far as we can in the Junior A and hopefully, you know, be thereabouts in the shake-up.
Any chance of a cameo from yourself at that level, because you were reeling back the years there big time today?
No, absolutely not, Breifne, no. I actually have no plans to play on the first team at all. Just, you know, we were short. Obviously we had 4 or 5 subs there, and a bit of pressure from the lads to go on, and I actually took the opportunity to go on, but no, I have no willing to play on the first team. You know, we have lots of young lads in the club, and that's the way we'll be going forward.
Well done today.
Thank you, Breifne. Thanks.
At the same time, junior football in the ladies' side of the house has all of the entertainment value also. A really entertaining game, just won by a single point by the hosts Glencar Manor. Saw Fianna disappointed on the day. I caught up with Elizabeth Honeyman of Fianna as well as Aisling Faulkner of Glencar Manor. Elizabeth Honeyman, bad day at the office?
Bad day at the office, surely. It's hard to get a defeat now after getting such a big win initially, but the last season, in fairness, did play well. I think we weren't on form today. There was nerves coming out and just weren't on top form. But again, the last season did play well. We give it all. Eileen in that goal, I know, but sure, these mistakes happen. Our defence in the end, we let it down. We weren't able to take our shooting opportunities at the start, up in the forward line. We're going around in circles, just wasn't our day. But sure, a point it's nothing really, like we can recover from it and come out strong again, hopefully.
The structure of the championship means 4 of the 5 teams going to the semi-final, so you will get another bite of the cherry. It's definitely not a negative in the grand scheme of things. What's the outlook for the rest of the championship?
We're hoping to push on and win the next 2 games, hopefully. It'd be great. Like, we want to get out of junior. It's hard to be in junior initially, and we're such a great team, and all the girls give it 110%. Like, not one of us, we go out there and we want to win. Like, there's ambition in us to win. We've come on a lot, we've been up and senior, came down to intermediate, now here we are, we want to get out, because it's ridiculous. So we hope to take on the next 2 games, full steam ahead and go straight on.
What's the mood like been in the camp for the season so far? It's been a strange kind of season for everybody.
It has been a strange season with this whole pandemic, COVID stuff. I don't know what to say about it. Holds you back kind of in one way because you don't know what to do. But we hope to just push on. Camp is good initially. Like that first win we got against St Francis was a great boost to us. Such a big score for us, and we did it the world of good, and we went on and we had a great training session, like 2 trainings out during the week, and the lassies pushed on, and hopefully now it all works out.
Well, hard luck today.
Thanks very much.
Aisling Faulkner, second game against first team opposition and 3 points from those 2 games. You must be delighted.
We're thrilled. Great to get the win under our belts now today.
Talk us through today's game, because it was fairly even the whole way through.
It was a tough battle out there, I suppose. Yeah, we were just tit for tat the whole game. They really put it up to us with them being a first team. But I suppose that's nothing like all our girls there were training with our first team, and a lot of girls pushing for the first team. So, it's great. We're fighting for it.
Some new faces in the team from the last game. Orla Kelly came in, her transfer came through, her transfer back in from Australia. How much of a help is it to have players of that quality coming back in with like underage county experience at this level?
Oh God, it's brilliant, and even just to drive all the girls around her on, and when we see her popping points over, it's great for the morale and the team spirit.
A couple of maybe fortuitous goal there towards the end, put you in the driving seat late on in the game. You never really looked like losing it from that point though.
No, we didn't. I suppose we were just said we'd keep fighting, win a few kick-outs, keep pushing on and just keep the heads up.
What's the future for this team? Obviously now you've got one place in the semi-final. You'll probably be home seeds or in the front for that. I'm not quite sure how the semi-final lineup is going to work just yet, but you're in that semi-final, so have you let yourself put your mind forward for that yet?
Not really. I suppose we'll take it today, get the win under our belts. We had a tough game against Drumkeeran there 2 weeks ago, so we know that we've them to come up against. So we'll see how it goes and just keep the team spirit up. And
it will be a huge achievement for a reserve team or a second team to win this competition, given that there are first teams in there. But you've kind of put that myth to bed today and the last day against Drumkeeran. In terms of this group, do you think there's a junior championship in this team?
I think so, definitely, after the performance today. I suppose we have our sights on the senior team as well, so we're always keeping that in the back of our minds. We're all training together, and it's great credit to our managers that we can field 2 strong teams, and we'll just see how it goes.
I suppose any injuries or suspensions at the senior grade would affect this grade in terms of girls not being available if you have to fill in those positions. How much of that comes up in conversation around the club at all, or are you even aware of that as a player?
Yeah, I suppose we are aware if any girls do come on for any minute of senior football, they can't play junior, but we just take it as it comes.
Well, listen, well done today.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you to everybody who spoke to me over the course of the entire weekend and helped put the show together. It really couldn't happen without people making themselves available, particularly, and I say this every week, but particularly those who've just had a defeat. It's never easy to self-analyse when you're maybe not that happy with your team or your own personal performance. So to those who spoke to me, particularly in defeat, that really does help make us bring the real sense of what the game was like from both sides, and a huge credit to everybody who does that. This, of course, has been the Sports Roundup show here on Leitrim Daily, supported by the local enterprise office here in County Leitrim. My name is Breifne. That's it for me today. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back on Friday with the preview show for next week's fixtures. Talk to you then.